War's hard on families. You think it'll end soon? Davies looked at the darkening sky. We're in France now, that's something. But Jerry's not beaten yet. Long way to Berlin. He put the photograph away carefully. But we'll get there, you lot and us together. We're good at different things, but together, we're strong. What are we good at? Morrison asked. You? Aggression, speed, firepower. You hit hard and fast. We're good at holding, at defending, at the slow grind. Different strengths. Davies smiled. Means Jerry has to deal with both styles. Keeps him confused. A British soldier started singing, some music hall song Morrison didn't recognize, and others joined in. The Americans listened, bemused by the lyrics about a lady from Brighton and her unfortunate choice of hate. Then Hayes started singing something American, and the British listened with equal bemusement. Neither group understood the other's songs, but somehow it didn't matter. Reg Cooper came over, sat down beside Morrison. You lot are all right, he said. Bit loud, bit chaotic, but all right. You're not so bad yourselves, Morrison said. Bit too fond of tea, bit too calm under fire, but not bad. Too calm under fire, is there such a thing? When you're brewing tea while someone's shooting at you, yeah, there's such a thing. Reg laughed. Fair point, but the tea helps, I'm telling you. Keeps you human. Reminds you there's a world beyond the war. He pulled out his cigarettes, offered one to Morrison. You know what I think? I think you Yanks will win this war for us. You've got the numbers, the equipment, the spirit, but I think we'll teach you how to survive it. Fair trade. Morrison took the cigarette, let Reg light it. Fair trade, he agreed. The next morning brought orders to move out. The British were heading east toward Caen, the Americans west toward Cherbourg. The alliance was splitting up, each force moving to its own objectives. Morrison's platoon lined up to move out, and the British platoon they'd spent 2 days with came over to say goodbye. Davies shook hands with Kowalski. Good luck, Lieutenant. Keep your head down. You too, Sergeant. Reg found Morrison, handed him something wrapped in paper. For the road. Morrison unwrapped it. Tea. A full tin of British Army tea. I don't know how to make it. You'll figure it out. Hot water, tea, bit of milk if you've got it. Bit of sugar if you're lucky. Drink it when things get rough. Reminds you you're still human. Reg stuck out his hand. See you in Berlin, Morrison. Morrison shook his hand. See you in Berlin, Cooper. The two forces moved out in different directions. Morrison looked back once, saw the British disappearing into the hedgerows, moving with that same careful precision he'd come to recognize. Different from Americans. Different style, different pace, different approach. But effective, professional, worthy of respect. Hayes came up beside him. You think we'll see them again? Maybe. This is a big war, but it's a small front. Paths cross. I hope so. I was starting to like them. Even the tea. Morrison smiled. Even the tea. They marched west, toward their own objectives, their own battles. But Morrison carried that tin of tea in his pack, and 3 weeks later, when his platoon was pinned down in a village south of Cherbourg, exhausted and scared, he broke it out and made tea for his squad. It was terrible. He didn't know what he was doing, but it helped. It reminded them they were still human, still alive, still fighting. And when they finally took the village and found British supplies in a captured German depot, Morrison smiled at the cases of tea stacked in the corner. Different armies, different styles. But some things were universal. The British needed their tea, the Americans needed their coffee, and both needed each other to win this war. The observations American troops made about British forces in those first days after D-Day were varied and complex. Some Americans found the British too slow, too cautious, too bound by procedure. Others admired their professionalism, their composure, their experience. Most fell somewhere in between, recognizing that the British way of war was different but not wrong, effective in its own context, worthy of study if not imitation. The British, for their part, found Americans aggressive, informal, and sometimes reckless. But they also recognized American energy, American optimism, American willingness to learn. The two forces were different, products of different military cultures and different war experiences. But they learned to work together, to complement each other's strengths, to cover each other's weaknesses. In letters home, American soldiers described their British allies with a mixture of bemusement and respect. They wrote about the tea, always the tea. They wrote about British calmness under fire, British discipline, British dry humor. They wrote about tactical differences, equipment differences, cultural differences. But mostly they wrote about discovering that despite all the differences, they were on the same side, fighting the same enemy, working toward the same goal. One soldier from the 29th Infantry Division wrote to his sister in July 1944, "The British are strange fellows. They drink tea when they should be drinking coffee, they're calm when they should be scared, and they move slow when they should move fast. But they've been fighting this war for 5 years, and they're still here, still fighting, still professional. I guess they must be doing something right. We could learn from them." I think we are learning from them. Another American soldier, a lieutenant from the 4th Infantry Division, wrote in his diary, "Linked up with British forces today near Carentan. Expected them to be stuffy and formal, like in the movies. Some are, but most are just soldiers like us, trying to survive, trying to do their job, trying to get home. They have their ways, we have ours. Both work. That's what matters." The relationship between American and British forces in Normandy was not always smooth. There were disagreements about tactics, about strategy, about who should get credit for victories and who should bear blame for setbacks. There was friction between different command styles, different operational tempos, different military cultures. But beneath the friction was mutual respect, born from shared hardship and common purpose. The British had been at war since 1939. They had fought in France, in North Africa, in Italy. They had survived the Blitz, endured Dunkirk, learned hard lessons about modern warfare. They brought experience, professionalism, and hard-won wisdom to the alliance. The Americans brought fresh energy, massive industrial capacity, and aggressive optimism. They were new to the war in Europe, but they learned quickly, adapted rapidly, and brought resources the British desperately needed. Together, they formed an alliance that would drive across France, into Germany, and ultimately to victory. The initial meetings in Normandy, the first observations and impressions, were the foundation of that partnership.